it was different. It was a different process buying a business that's in the red versus buying a business that's in the black. When you're doing that, there's probably a much more difficult negotiation,
right? And
you have to be more mindful of what you're acquiring. Whereas when you're in the red, they're just looking to get out, and so it was a little bit simpler. They were still very early on with their one truck. They didn't have all that much, so it was relatively simple to get it papered and to get the thing closed.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. That's awesome. Now, let's talk about when you become a franchisee, because I spoke to, we have a common friend, Shannon, and I had him on the podcast as well too.
Yep.
And they basically go to like the headquarters and they do like 2 weeks of training and everything like that. So you kind of get a sense of the business itself, but really when you get out there, it's totally different. So why don't you kind of talk about the 2 weeks, or I don't know how much training you had, and then when you actually got out to the field and did that, was there differences?
It was definitely a lot of trial by fire up front. Typically when you come in and you start a franchise, and I can only speak really to the junk luggers, but I know that it's broadly similar, where you come in and you kind of, they vet you, you vet them. Once you decide, okay, everyone decides, okay, this is going to work out, we're a good fit for each other. You come in and you learn the ropes. You do, a couple months of training before you ever open up, and you do a gradual ramp up and kind of open once you're ready to go and all set. In this case, it wasn't like that. I took over day one and we had jobs immediately. I had to figure out how to drive the truck, operate it, how to do jobs, how to complete stuff according to our goals, and hire employees as well. So it was like day one, we had to be ready to go. So it wasn't your typical process where you have a couple months of training. Luckily for me, I did get to go to a conference in Las Vegas that happened to be right around the same time that I was starting. So I got to meet with dozens of other franchisees, some of the vendors, people at corporate. So, I would definitely recommend, no matter who you are, if you're going into a business, just talk to as many people as you can, especially ones that are in the same line of work as you,
right?
And as comparable as you can get. So if they're either in your market, same franchise system, or if they're just doing it right, you don't want to learn from the people who are not doing it right. You're going to find the people who are doing it best and do what they say.
Right. Now, like I've heard, like a lot of people that get into franchisee, I listen to a lot of like franchise podcasts as well too, like that community that you have of like other franchisees, like that's what people really get into these franchise groups, because there's such a big community. You can run things off of people and everything like that. Like, how important is that to you? And like, do you find using that, from your day-to-day business?
Man, that's huge. I mean, I would say there's a lot of value in being part of a franchise. There's no right answer whether you're going to do a franchise or do it independently. It's like, should you buy or lease a car? I always compare that. It's like, there's no right answer. It just depends on what you're looking for or what your goals are. But being part of a franchise system, there's a lot of power to it. You can really leverage the knowledge of other people. There's a lot of advice and skills you can get, shortcuts you can take, because you're leveraging the information of all of these other people in your same system. And there are other benefits to a franchise as well. So not only do you have the camaraderie and skill set and knowledge base of the rest of your system, but one other things that get included in what we pay for as a franchise, and you pay royalties, but you pay for other things as well. So we have a 24-hour call center. We have a national accounts team that sets up strategic partnerships with other commercial businesses that basically enable us to do jobs for them without having to have an in-house business development person at that level. And we'll still want that, but they're striking up those relationships for us. All the technology and infrastructure essentially is in place already. Like I said, call center, the booking and scheduling platform, payments, all that stuff. So you really can come in and just turn the key and get started. And there's also a national marketing campaign. And lastly, I know you and I have talked about this a bit, but one thing that's good is if the brand becomes big enough, it can be desirable to people and people want to get in. So, if they start to have territories taken up throughout the country, well, there can be a little bit more of a demand for it. So if at any point I want to exit or, to get a sense of value in my business, there might be a limited supply of available junk luggers territories to open, and that might help enhance the value. We've talked about that where, you're building your brand. We're doing it right now.
Right.
And eventually, like that brand will have, some value to it. It'll have a higher demand potentially. And you can then do more with it.
Exactly.